Okay, Chapter 0 review. And I'm going to go through every single problem. Not even going to ask, which ones do you have questions on. I'm going to go through every single one. And again, for some of you, you did fine on this stuff. Even if you did fine on this stuff, you need to pay attention, write this stuff down, and I would not write on this test that I gave you. Okay, write it on another sheet of paper, because then when you go home, you have a clean slate right there, and you can just do a little practice test on your own. Just put it down. There's no answers on it, and then you can try the problems at home. So do them in here in class, and also do them at home. If you do that for every one of these tests, it's going to give you a great, great advantage over not doing anything at all. Okay? All right, number 1. Here we go. This is a conversion thing. We're going 21 feet. And they're asking you to change that to, put a question mark, to how many yards? Now you might just be able to look at it and do that in your head, and that's perfectly fine. But let's go through the steps, because sometimes it's not always going to be so easy just to look at it. Some of these problems are, some of them are not. So let's go through the little method right here. If you remember, we always put it over 1, and we multiply it by a unit multiplier. We're changing it to yards. So I've got feet here. I want to get rid of feet. I want to change it to yards. Can I go directly from feet to yards? Look at your little conversion thing here. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, this should be one you have memorized, but I will give you the list of conversions. So watch what we do. We put feet on the bottom so that the feet cancel out, and we can change that to yards. Now we got to put the right number in the right spot here. How many yards equals how many feet? 3 yards? 1 yard equals 3 feet. That's right. These have to be the same. Okay, 1 yard is 3 feet. Don't put the 3 with the yards and the 1 with the feet. All right, because 1 foot obviously is not 3 yards. Would you agree? All right, so this is how we set it up. And we do all of these. I gave you 4 of these to do. So let's do it the same way every single time. So watch what happens. The feet cancel out, and so I'm left with yards, but look at this. What do I do with this 21 and this 3? I divide. That's right, because 21's on top, 3's on the bottom, so 21 divided by 3 is 7, and then we've got yards and 7 yards. Again, I realize that some of you guys can just look at that and do that in your head. I get that. But I'm just showing you a process. We're trying to learn the process, not just to get the right answer, because sometimes these are going to be a lot more difficult, and you won't just be able to look at it and do it in your head, but you can go through the same process every single time. All right? Let's do the next one. 180 grams equals how many kilograms? I'll just put a blank here instead of a question mark. All right, grams to kilograms. If you look at your list, can you go directly from grams to kilograms? Yeah, there's a thing on your list that says 1 kilogram equals 1,000 grams. That's what we're going to use right there. So we got that from the list that I gave you. And let's see what we're going to do here. We go 180 grams. I always put that thing over 1 because we're going to multiply it by a fraction. So I like that thing to look like a fraction. Now, if I'm trying to get rid of grams, if grams is on the top, where do I put grams over here? On the bottom, so they cancel each other out. And I'm going to change it to kilograms, so I can put kilograms on the top. Now, I can go directly from grams to kilograms, can I? Because of that thing right there. So let's figure out how many grams equals how many kilograms right here. 1 kilogram is what? 1,000 grams. Look what happens. The grams cancel out. I'm left with kilograms. Now you just have to do this. 180 divided by 1,000. You should be able to do that in your head. If not, you could always use a calculator, but you really shouldn't. What's 180 divided by 1,000? If I divide by a power of 10, what do I do with my decimal? If I divide, I move it where? To the left. How many places? How do you know 3? Because there's what? Because there's 3 zeros right here. So I'm going to move this 1, 2, 3 places, and so that gives me what? 0.18. And you could put a 0 there if you want. You don't really need it. But 0.18 what? Kilograms. That's right. Does that make sense? 180 grams is 0.18 kilograms. Yeah, because a kilogram's a lot bigger than a gram. All right, so it takes just a small amount of kilograms to make a whole bunch of grams. Get it? All right, let's keep going. Again, the process is the same for all of these, so hopefully you're seeing that. Let's do number 3, 35 yards. We want to change that to miles. Now, look at your little list right there. Do you have, actually, let's do this. it's meters, sorry. Yep, I saw the M. If it was miles, it'd be MI or spell out the word miles, okay? But just a regular M, that's an ugly looking M. Let's try that again. That's a little better. Okay, is there a relationship between yards and meters? Is there one? Yeah, it is. It's right on your little list right there, okay? There's another way that I would do this, but yeah, it's right on the list, so it's 1 yard equals 0.9 meters. And yep, that's the only way that I show it on there. Okay, so that's what we're going to use right there. All right, so it's just as easy as what we did before. 35 yards, put it over 1, multiply. We call these things unit multipliers, these things right here. I haven't said that yet. Now, what are we trying to get rid of? We're trying to get yards. So we put yards on the bottom, we put meters on the top. So look over here. Which one goes with what? The 0.9 goes with the meters, right? And the 1 goes with the yards. Now look at this. Is this division this time? No, because now the 0.9 is on top. So these two are on top, so what do we do with those two? Multiply them together. Somebody got a calculator on? Somebody do that for me. 35 times 0.9. Take a pass. So Nicole, what'd you get for that? 35 times 0.9. 31.5? Okay. All right. I'll take your word for that one. That's 31.5 meters. Is that what you got, Nicole? A little dark. Yeah. All right. So make sure you know when you divide and when you multiply. It's very important. I've seen a lot of people just multiply every single time and not know why. Make sure you know why you're doing what you're doing. Okay, here's the last one of these type. It's 5.1. Now they use a capital L. I usually use a lowercase l, but the book uses a capital L. Equals that many quarts. Do we have one that goes directly from liters to quarts? Yeah, we do. We have 1 quart. It's on your list. 1 quart equals 0.9 liters. All right? So it's pretty much the same kind of problem, isn't it? So 4.1 liters, put it over 1, times the unit multiplier. Liters is on the top, so liters are going to be on the bottom. I'm going to change it to quarts. Now, what goes where here? 1 goes with which one? The quart, and the 0.9 goes with the liters. So make sure you put it in the right spot. So now we have another division problem. Right? And look what happens. The liters cancel out. So it's 5.1 divided by 0.9. Now, I can't do that in my head, but somebody do that for me. What's 5.1 divided by 0.9? Give it to me as a decimal, since we have all decimals here. You don't have a decimal for it? All right, here's my calculator. Let's go ahead and do this. So it's 5.1 divided by 0.9. 5.1 divided by 0.9. And that's 5 point. Let's just round it. What would you round it to? 5.67. That'd be probably good. Or 5.7. These two just have 1 decimal place. So it might be a good idea just to round it to 1 decimal place. So about 5.7. All right. Now, if you put 5.6, I'd give it to you. If you put 5.67, I'd give it to you. I heard somebody say put 5.6 repeating. Now, yeah, technically that's right, but when we do stuff like this, we never put repeating on there, all right? So I would not write it like this. I would round it. So 5.7 or 5.67, that's probably the best way. Either one of those two ways is the best way. If you put 5.6, you technically haven't rounded it, have you? Because there's a 6 after it. So I kind of like 5.7 the best. And what is your units, though? That's 5.7 what? Quarts. So put the quart next to it. Good with that? All right. It's pretty easy, isn't it? So hopefully you get those right when it comes to the midterm. So let's try some more. Now we're getting into some algebra kind of stuff. These say evaluate. Let's write this down. Evaluate. And so we're going to evaluate this expression if R equals 3, Q equals 1, and W equals -2. All right, let's just drop this down a little bit. There we go. All right, and we've got 5W over 3R plus Q. 3r plus q. All right, so here it is. It's all set up for us. This is what r, q, and w are equal to, so we're just plugging and chugging, right? We just take this stuff and we just plug it in. So we've got 5 times w. Now when you multiply two things together, I think it's best in algebra to use parentheses around this thing. Okay, 5w, so that would be 5 times negative 2 over 3 times r, so it's 3 times 3, and then plus q, which is a 1. So this is what everybody should have written down right now. This should be written down just like this. Don't put a dot for multiply. Don't put an X for multiply. Use parentheses. Okay, when you get into algebra, that's most of the time, the majority of the time, to show multiplication, we use parentheses around these things. So make sure you do that. Now, we got to figure this out. Now, when you have a fraction like this, I always figure out what's going to be on top, what's going to be on the bottom. Hope you guys are having fun. There's all this joking around and playing around here. Okay, it needs to stop. So here we go. We've got negative 10 on the top. And on the bottom, we can do this in our head. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. Now, you're not going to leave it like this. Do not leave it like this. You must simplify. And when you simplify, that's just a negative 1. And that's the only acceptable answer right there is negative 1. That's it. It's your only acceptable answer. Does that make sense? Seems easy when I do it, but a lot of people might do this. A lot of people go 3 plus 1 is 4. 3 times 4 is 12. Is that what you do? No, it's order of operations, right? You do the multiplication first before you add anything. That's order of operations. All right, number 6. We're using the same R, Q, and W for number 6. So it's 8 plus absolute value, Q minus 5. Do you remember absolute value? So what we're going to do is this. We're going to put the stuff in the absolute value. Figure out what's in the absolute value first, and then we're going to take the absolute value of it. I'll show you what I mean. So it's going to be 8 plus absolute value Q. What is Q equal to? It's just a 1. So it's 1 minus 5. All right, so what you do is you work the stuff inside the absolute value first. Don't just change all the stuff in there to a positive. I've seen people do that. Don't do that. Work what's in there first, and then at the very end, once I get one number inside my absolute value, then I can make sure that number is positive. Does that make sense? So let's see what we got. We get 8 plus, put the absolute value there again, and then 1 minus 5. 1 minus 5 is negative 4. Now we're ready to do the absolute value, because now there's only one number inside that absolute value. So it's going to be 8 plus. What's the absolute value of negative 4? Just positive 4, right? Because whenever you take the absolute value of something, you take the positive version of it. So it's 8 plus 4, and that is 12. This stuff right here, we didn't really have to solve for anything. You just had to simplify it or evaluate is what that word said right there. On this problem right here, you're actually going to have to solve for something. You're going to have to get x by itself or a by itself or b or whatever they're asking you to solve for. So here's the situation. You've got 3/5 b equals negative 2. So this time you're going to solve. It says to solve. It just says solve. It says solve each equation. Okay, there's only one variable here, so there's no doubt what you're supposed to solve for here. You're supposed to solve for b. That's what you're trying to get by itself. So you have to get rid of the stuff that's with the b. This 3/5 right here is being multiplied by the b. So how do you get rid of that 3/5? You could divide. A lot of people say divide, and technically that's right. But Mary, what'd you say? Multiply by the reciprocal. That's right. Multiply by the reciprocal. That's the same thing as dividing. Division is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. And that's the best way to get rid of a fraction. If a fraction's being multiplied, you get rid of it by multiplying the reciprocal. That's doing the opposite. Okay, 5/3. And you see what happens. It works out perfectly. The 5 cancel out, the 3 cancels out. So you come over here and you multiply by 5/3. So these cancel out. And then what are we left with? Now we're left with b equals, and then we just work this thing out right here. Does 3 cancel out with anything up here? No, it doesn't. So nothing cancels out, so we just multiply straight across. Negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. Then 1 times 3 is 3, and just leave it like that. Don't change it to a decimal. Don't change it to a mixed number. Just keep it like that. You're finished. You're done. There's no more to do. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit. That seems to be a big problem when people do algebra, is trying to figure out how to get rid of the fraction. It's actually a lot easier than people think. 5's on the bottom, so you put it on the top so they cancel out. The 3's on the top, so you put it on the bottom so the 3's cancel out. You do the same thing to the other side, and then you're good to go. That's all there is to it. But you got to practice this. Okay, just because you're watching me do these doesn't mean that you're able to do it. You have to practice it. You've got to do it yourself. Here's another one where you're actually solving for something. All right, here we go. It's a little different because this is a couple more steps. That other one was basically one step. Okay, you just got rid of the fraction and you're basically done. Simplify the fraction. But right here, look what I've got. I've got D on the left side of the parentheses and I have a D on the right side of the parentheses. I don't want them on both sides. Where do I want them? On one side, right. And it doesn't matter which side. You could put it either on the left or you could put it on the right. It's up to you. If I was to do this, if it was me, I'd probably put the D on the right-hand side. Any idea why I would do that? To make it what? Not positive. Not even necessarily, but positive, right. Okay, because I want to make it positive. Do you have to make it positive? No, you could get rid of the 4D and have a negative over here on the left-hand side. But to me, I would rather deal with a positive than a negative. So that's what I would do. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's add a 6D. Actually, let's do that in a different color so it stands out a little bit. Go yellow again. So I'm going to add a 6D here. I'm going to add a 6D over here. Now I got the D's over here. See, that cancels out. Now I got the D's on the right-hand side. So now what do you think I want to do? Take the 7 and put it on the other side, right? Because I just want the D's on the one side. I want the constant, or the number that's sitting there by itself, I want that on the other side. So I get rid of this. Sean, what'd you say? Subtract a 7. Very good. Okay, because this was a positive 7, I get rid of it by subtracting a 7. All right, and now I'm ready to bring everything down. I'll tell you what, let's cancel this thing out right now first. So bring everything down. 27 minus 7 is 20 equals, and then what's this going to be? 4D plus 6D is 10D. All right, that was the major part of this problem right here, is to get the D's on the same side, get the constants on the other side, and now bring everything down. Now it's really simple once you see this. It's a very simple problem. Divide both sides by 10. And then D is, don't leave it like that. Don't leave it 20 over 10. Don't even leave it 2 over 1. Okay? Why would you want to leave it 2 over 1? Just leave it what? 2. So D is 2. That's the best way to write it like that. I wouldn't mark it wrong if you put 2 over 1. Now, if you left it 20 over 10, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to mark it wrong. Everybody hear that? Because I want you to simplify. So all these answers, I want you to simplify the answer. If you leave it 20 over 10, I'm marking that problem wrong. Even though you did all the steps right. I'm telling you, though, I want your answer a certain way, and I want your answer completely simplified. So make sure that you do that. All right, only 2 more. These are pretty easy. There's really no math involved in this at all. It's just knowing how to graph. And let's do a little X and Y axis right here. On the test, if I give you this, I'll probably put a little grid, thing, a little graphing thing on there, so you don't have to use your own graph paper or anything like that. This says graph and label the point -2, -4. That's all you got to do is show where it is, okay? But you have to label it. If you just put a dot and you don't label it, then it's going to be wrong. By the way, they put a capital R in front of it, so this is point R. So it's -2, -4. So you go -2, you go down -4. Now remember, this is X and this is Y. So the first one, you go left and right. The second one, you go up and down. When we tested on this stuff, and since then we've done a little bit more with this as well, when we did like midpoint formula and distance formula and all that kind of stuff, some of you guys are mixing this up. Some of you guys are going up and down first and then left and right, but you don't do that. You go the X direction first, horizontal, that's the X direction, and then you go the Y direction second. It's alphabetical order. You go X, then you go Y. Does everybody understand that? That's very important. So there's -2, there's -4. Put a dot right there. Right there, that wouldn't be right, though, because it says graph and label. Okay, this is not labeled just yet, is it? What point is this point? It's point R. So you must put a point R right there. And you must have these numbers. Now, you don't have to fill all those in, but put a -2 on your graph. Okay, don't just put the marks in here without marking them, because there's times when you graph where every one of these marks might be worth like 2 or 5 or 10, right? This might have been 10, 20, 30, 40. You don't know. So you can't just put a little mark and not tell how much that thing is worth. So if it's worth 1, you put -1, -2, right? Now, I would give you this. If you didn't want to put the -1 in there, you just put the -2. That'd be okay with me. If you didn't want all that stuff in there, that would be okay as well. All right, I would accept that, okay, as long as you show me where that thing is located. So when it says graph and label, part of the labeling is showing me the points. Everybody got that? Now, I'll already give you a grid, all right? So all these little marks will be there. You just have to write in how far you went this way and how far you went down this way. Everybody understand that? So I want those numbers. What is that? Yeah, I guess I could give you that. You could do that as well. If you want to put -2, -4, like right next to the point, that would be okay as well. All right, but I definitely want the letter, and it's got to be in the right spot. And you could label it a couple ways. If you just want to put the ordered pair right next to it, I'd accept that. That'd be okay. Okay, but you could also put the numbers here and here, so I know how far you went. We go to that? Pretty easy stuff. And this next one, if you can do that, then you can do this next problem. You're just graphing a triangle. All right, so let's write this down. So point J is 1, -4. Point K is 2, 3. And L is -1, 2. And let's go different colors. Go yellow. All right, so if I want to plot this, actually, let's make my little marks in white, and I'll plot the yellow, the point in yellow. So 1 negative, let's just go like this. Let's see how far. It's no bigger than 4, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Again, you'll have the graph on the answer sheet itself, so you won't have to go through this. Let's go blue. All right, so let's plot the points. 1, -4. So again, we go in the x direction first, and then we go in the y direction. That's the x, and that's the y. So we go 1, so we go to the right one, you go down -4, okay, down to here, or down 4. That's point J. Let's do K's, 2, 3. So to the right 2, up 3. 1, 2, 3. Right there, and that's K. And then L is -1, 2. -1, that means 1 to the left, and up 2. Right there, and that's point L. All right? And tell you what, if you want, let's label it like this. K is 2, 3. It might be a little easier to label like that, and J is 1, -4. Am I done? Will I get credit for that if that's what I do? No, what does the problem say? Graph the what? The triangle, okay? So this needs to be a triangle. So the dots aren't enough. That's not a triangle. Triangle has sides, doesn't it? So we got to show the sides. So we got to show this, this, and this. Is that enough to get this problem right? Absolutely, okay? I've graphed the triangle. I've labeled the points, labeled them by their letters, and I've also labeled them by their coordinates, those ordered pair right there, okay? All right, so that's chapter 0. That was all that practice stuff. See, aren't you glad we did chapter 0? Because you remember doing a lot of this stuff later on, don't you? We've done this stuff. We've done this stuff right here so many times since we did that chapter 0. But that's why I wanted to hit this stuff, because I knew we were going to do this through the rest of the course. So this stuff is very, very important. Okay, same thing with this. And we haven't really done much of this kind. I guess we have done a little bit of this kind of stuff, plugging in points. We really haven't done much of this since chapter 0, but that'll be good for algebra 2, because you'll need to know how to do that stuff in algebra 2. All right, so tomorrow we'll do chapter 1. Might be a good idea to find your chapter 1 bring it in so that you can see what you did wrong, what you did right when you actually took the test. But I will have another copy for you, and it's not going to be on digital lockers or anything, but will have a copy for you.